Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, July 26th, 2021. And our top story today, an expatriate's life and journey in Japan. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Jay Crystal is the founder of the Wave Center for Language and Culture. Jay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Jeff, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, and we have so much to cover here, and I want to talk about your book, I want to talk about your music, I want to talk about the Wave Center. But let's start off with what led you to pick up and move and go to Kyoto, Japan. What was that process in your head like?
Well, I was married to a Japanese woman from Kyoto who I met in New York, so that had a lot to do with it. I have a daughter who lives in Japan and always felt like a global citizen, so I thought, why not uproot myself and revive my music career, my dream of being successful in music, start a new business and do it. So I guess I got sick of New York.
And you are a born New Yorker. You were born and raised in New York. You've had numerous, you gave up some really good roles in New York. Let's talk about the transition. What was it like transitioning? For those people maybe considering not only a move to Japan, but a move across the globe, once things reopen, of course. What was that? What were some of the considerations, things that you thought about in terms of picking up and moving?
Well, frankly, I'm still shell-shocked by it 10 years later. But it's a leap of faith. I had confidence that I had some kind of a mission in life beyond, fighting it out in New York. And I thought, whatever happens, I'll make it work. I'm deeply based in my Buddhist faith. And I just thought, somehow I'll figure it out. And teaching English was a natural.
Yeah, and I want to get to the Wave Center in a second. But let's talk about the Japanese culture. And we've had on, as I talked to you offline about, we've had on Dr. Kenji Chida, who I've known for over 30 years here in the States. I went to junior high school with him and kept in touch. And he went to the transition, moving to the Philippines first and then Japan, where he now has a family. What's the cultural shift? What are some things that expats need to be aware of in terms of getting into the Japanese culture?
Well, considering that 99.5% of everybody in Japan is Japanese, you're kind of invisible for a little while. You may stand out in a crowd, but you sort of, you're more an observer than anything else. So shifting your mindset into Japanese culture, understanding its quirkiness, adapting to it, it's actually fun. It's actually fun. So in terms of like letting your guard down and being in a safe society, those things are just natural. It's given. It's kind of just a breath of fresh air. National healthcare system. You don't have to worry about, losing your healthcare or low cost. So it's kind of a natural transition. I think the language barrier is probably the thing that needs to be conquered, though.
And let's talk about language, because you found it. So as I mentioned, you've been a part of some really prominent businesses while in New York and growing up in New York. But you kind of really shifted gears to found the Wave Center for Language and Culture. First, what's the Wave Center, and how did language and culture really fit into what you do every day with your students?
Yeah, well, it's a school that I bought 5 or 6 years ago that was an English school in a great neighborhood in Kyoto. That's where I am, Kyoto, Japan. I sort of morphed it into a business professional and researcher and doctor place, because Japanese people need to up their English game to stay competitive in the world. So having this particular space in another location, it just seemed like a natural to include culture in that as well, because just speaking English or almost speaking English doesn't really make you competitive. Learning about culture, listening to a Bob Marley song might teach you more about Americans than your grammar or something.
Yeah, a lot of that can't be picked up in a textbook, can't be picked up maybe even in a classroom setting. Jay, let's talk about competitiveness. I think we dealt with this previously with Kenji, Dr. Chida. And you may have a little bit of a differing point of view here, but let's talk about innovation, the importance of English language speaking, and the competitiveness with China and some of the other Asian Pacific and global leaders.
Yeah. Well, it's no secret that Japan is struggling economically right now, and China and South Korea are creeping up. And part of that reason is because they can communicate better. And their open-mindedness. There's a small island mentality in Japan that started long before we were born that continues to this day. So really, technological innovation, Japan has it. When we hear about Japanese scientists, they can turn human feces into hamburgers, whatever. They're amazing technology here, but really it's like innovation of thought that I think is needed. So English is a big part of that, and really prying open people's perception to see what's going on in the world. There's plenty of customers in Japan, so it's easy for companies to make money in Japan. But to really penetrate international markets, Japan has really got to open their minds, and younger people are starting to get it. But there was an era of prosperity, the bubble era in the 80s and 90s, and people got a little bit soft. So I think that young people really have to not just learn English, but have to regain that samurai fighting spirit to win.
Yeah, really good point, Jay. And let's talk a little bit about the Olympics for a second, because in a perfect world, pre-COVID, that would be a boom economically, but also for an opportunity for people to see the culture of Japan and also to expand Japanese influence, for lack of a better term, in the world. What's the latest on the Olympics, and what does it or can it do in its current form to meet the mission and objective that we were just discussing?
Well, 80% of Japanese thought the Olympics should be canceled, because there's still outbreaks, and Delta variant as kind of a toehold in Japan. For years, people were preparing for this. New condominiums were going up, restaurants, train stations, everything. So there certainly would have been a boom to the economy, no question about it. But frankly speaking, the tourism industry before the Olympics was so strong. I mean, this particular city, Kyoto, was voted #1 destination by, I think it was Condé Nast Traveler, twice in 10 years. So the Olympics certainly would have helped a lot, but I don't think it would have had the impact that maybe people spoke about it.
Yeah, well, I guess, I've been reading a lot about it. I guess it remains to be seen what the actual impact is. It's like anything else. You have to wait till after it happens. But certainly there are some trials and tribulations, and I know there's some angst growing in Japan. Jay, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jay about his music and his book. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM.
You need a financial plan that fits the way you want to live in retirement. A plan that can help grow and protect your money, now or in the future. With an annuity in your plan to help cover essential expenses, you'll have the freedom to live the retirement you want. This is what an annuity can do. Find the right financial professional to show you how. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score, a credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Jay Crystal, who is the founder of the Wave Center for Language and Culture. Jay, thanks for staying with us this morning.
My pleasure, Jeff.
Now, let's talk about some of the differences. I know you had, in talking with you offline, there's some really interesting differences, dichotomies, if you will, living in New York versus living in Japan. What are some of the things that maybe some expats like yourself have to be aware of?
All right. Be aware of, or maybe revel in it, is just the downright civility that people know about, Japanese character. So the over-the-top politeness, the fact that, a cashier at a convenience store might smile so much that a single guy might think that, he has a chance with her or something. So that civility, that sense of people working together towards a greater goal, which, for better or worse, has defined Japanese society. And the safety, Jeff. I'm from New York, and now I don't have to look who's behind me on a subway platform. So that sense of you're taken care of, every day is a new adventure. You walk down a little street or an alley, and don't worry about getting mugged, but you'll find a hookah bar or something like that. What the heck is that doing in the middle of Japan? So there's not so much to really gird yourself for. It's more like just come as a sponge and absorb it and hopefully make a living doing it.
Jay, you've been talking about your transition, and we all go through different stages in our lives, and I'm going through my second act. Maybe you're going through your second act as well. Let's talk about your music career. What does that look like for you? Well, first of all, what instrument do you play, and what type of music do you create?
Well, I've always been a drummer, and I was always a drummer in a reggae band or a calypso band or a funk band in New York. And I guess halfway through my life, that would put it at 20, jokingly, I started to sing. So playing in alternative rock bands in New York was kind of more of a hobby. I mean, it was certainly an elusive dream. But coming to Japan, that sort of allowed me to blossom in different ways. So I play guitar. I guess I'm a songwriter, singer, producer, a little bit of a DJ. And my music, I guess, is a blend of everything that has gone into my stew. So reggae, alternative rock, pulsating dance music with a sort of a conscious message to it. Because frankly, it's all tied together through a mission that I've declared for myself to somehow make a dent in culture positively. And frankly, I'm so discouraged by some of the things that I hear in music, or I'm just not entertained by it. Maybe the gray in my temples is starting to reveal itself, but I just thought I've got to somehow penetrate people's lives with music and with the themes I'm singing about, and maybe build bridges to and from Japan to the rest of the world.
Yeah, listening to you talk, I mean, you're definitely interested in that global mission. Jay, is this music mission of yours? Is this hobby, or is this more of a career where you're actually investing? You've built these great language and culture centers, or managed them, and you bought them and then managed them and grew them. But is music more hobby, or is it more, hey, this is what I want to pursue next? I'm successful here. This is doing well, and this is where I'm going to focus my time going forward.
Yeah. Well, I think like the majority of musicians, songwriters, striving to get to that dream enlightenment of being able to make enough money from your art. That's a wonderful goal that I'm still chasing, and I'll probably chase until I'm in diapers. But my income comes from teaching education and culture and, working with doctors and researchers. But I would say that the music is, pulses through me more than anything else. And that, again, is based on somehow connecting to something a little bit deeper than just self-gratification. It would be wonderful to be successful, Jeff. I would love an airplane, and I'd love to be able to travel freely and not wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But this journey is so exciting because I just feel like it's a convergence of a lot of things in my life. The music that I struggled with in my 20s and 30s and 40s, combined with education, combined with friendship and being positioned here, kind of looking out at the world through this, beacon in Japan, this glimmering beacon. So, I guess I'm not going to call it a hobby. I'm going to call it, the reason I live.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you know what you want to accomplish, and music is a big part of that, and it is a conduit. It's you and I are both fans of the Grateful Dead. They were in the transportation business, and it can definitely transport people to a better place. I guess last question, Jay. Let's talk a little bit about your book. What's the book about, and where can we find it?
Yeah. It's called Lovesick in Kyoto, and that's Lovesick, Lovesic. Because frankly, I don't feel lovesick. I feel in love with life. It's a book about, my journey to get from New York here, actually even before New York, and kind of being exposed to just foreign cultures, particularly Asian culture through my family. And then it's the funny experiences. It's learning about the contradictions in Japanese society, how they kind of informed my music and changed me. And for instance, Japanese people are, formal in behavior and polite, yet, drunkenness and, over the top playful behavior, those things somehow they work together, they fuse together. So if you haven't figured this out yet, I'm kind of a bundle of contradictions myself. So it's very natural to be.
We all are.
So it's really natural to be planted here. So this book kind of takes you along that journey and some of the realizations I've had. And it's rooted in SGI Buddhism, which is the chanting of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, which is kind of an axis of my life and glues it together. There's funny stories. I had to tone it down a little bit because there are some Japanese readers that I didn't want to offend. But that's it. It's on Amazon. It's available, not at bookstores in the States, but everything online. And my music is out there as well on YouTube, Jay Crystal.
Yeah. Well, Jay, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I think all of these are lessons. We can learn a lot from each other. You talk about that conduit. You're being a conduit by sharing your life story, sharing your information. And I think people will find the book interesting and certainly check out your great music. I want to appreciate you, really appreciate you coming on the program. And we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Jeff, such a pleasure to meet you. Take care.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, lifestyle, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.